Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another September Live. My name is Nxele for those who do not know me, and we are Siphesihle Digital. So we're a marketing agency, but we're also very much a science platform that's always committed to showcasing, celebrating, and accelerating science and sciences in Africa. And obviously, this month is September, so we're just doing everything science communication. Basically, it's what we'll be doing all the time. All right. So today we have soon to be, soon to be Dr. Nxele. So I'm so excited about the chat. She's going to be telling us about what she does, and obviously, we want to find out her thoughts on science communication. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in our soon-to-be Dr. Siphesihle Robin Nxele. And there we go. Good
Yeah.
evening.
Hi, how are you?
Fine, thanks. And how are you?
Good, thank you. Good to officially meet you. And thank you for having me here.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for agreeing to do this. I'm so excited to have this chat with you. I know it's going to be a very insightful one.
I hope so. I'll
Yeah.
do the best I can to
Do
give
your best. That's all you have to do.
informative information. Yeah.
And I mean, you are very committed to this because you came back to Instagram for this.
Honestly, and I really was pushing to only start posting again like later on in the year. So I'm here for
Yay
you.
to us. Yay to us. So obviously we only have 30 minutes, but the 30 minutes can go by very quickly.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go straight into it. Tell us a little bit about you, your career, and how and why you ended up in chemistry.
Um, that question is so broad. So I'll just go straight into how and why I ended up in chemistry. So, I've always been into maths and science. I've always been that nerdy kid living in the library, studying books. Um, so when I got to Rhodes University, which is where I did my undergrad up to PhD, I started off with doing maths, physics, geology, and chemistry. So you do a general BSc and you choose a couple of subjects. Physics, I really was not my thing. I feel like I tried it out. I thought I could do it because I did in high school, but it didn't work out for me. That was not where I was meant to be. So I dropped that, continued with maths and chemistry and geology. And then when I got to third year, I did a double major in geology and chemistry. Um, and I decided to stick with chemistry from honors going up, leading up to PhD, because I felt like with chemistry, I could really just do whatever I need to do with it. So with chemistry research, you really just can just go into any field of research really when it comes to chemical sciences, because you've got pharmaceutics, you've got organic chemistry, which is basically the making or synthesizing of molecules and medicines. You have analytical chemistry, you have physical chemistry. So there's a lot of aspects of chemistry that there is. So I felt like I could apply myself more and really play around with it until I really found my place within the discipline. Um, so yeah, so also once I started getting comfortable in the lab, I started publishing and then doing work that could contribute greatly to medicine. So since then, I didn't turn back, and here I
Wow.
am.
And your research that you did your joint PhD in, it's very interesting. I was just obviously reading a snippet of what you did. Do you mind
Yeah.
sharing like a 30-second line about your research and why you did that specifically?
So the research group that I worked with since my honors year, we generally focus on cancer research, and using dye molecules to develop non-invasive cancer treatments. So something that would work far better than your chemotherapies. But with the research that I did, I decided to go into early detection devices. So basically monitoring your health using easily accessible devices in order to kind of track your health, to prevent you getting sick to a point where you need invasive treatments like chemotherapy. A lot of students were doing breast cancer research, so I decided to go into prostate cancer research, just to do something different because no one had really gone into that particular subject. So in that regard, I then started using materials that I could make myself in the lab in order to develop these devices so that, you know, even the people in the most dire situations can use these miniaturized or small tools in order to monitor their own health and see how well where they stand when it comes to prostate cancer, because it's one of the most prevalent cancers in the world right now.
Mm. No, that's very interesting.
Mm.
And yeah, I mean, for anybody who's interested in her research, that's when you can DM our soon-to-be doctor and ask her. Then she'll explain the rest. But
Yeah.
moving right along, when we look at the field, because you just said your research obviously is prominent of because of that's the kind of cancer that's really prominent in the world right now. But when
Mm.
we look at chemistry as a whole, or maybe you can make it a little bit more specific, how important is it, you know, in the world, and what has Africa contributed to the world?
Um, so chemistry, I'm gonna focus on Africa. So
Mm.
my supervisor was actually very passionate about science in Africa as a whole and on the continent, and you know, us developing ourselves and growing ourselves as scientists and researchers within our continent and not running away, right?
By the
Or
way, you're
finishing up.
allowed to name drop because she's a big name.
Oh, Professor Nyokong. Yes,
She's
that is the
amazing.
woman that grew me to get to this point. Um, but yeah, so with Africa as a whole, and I think this is where a lot of my past colleagues and I's passionate is as much as we know that we live on a continent that is rich in culture and resources, we face a lot of issues such as food security, access to clean water, even access to decent medical care, right? Um, we I'm, we're trying to progress as a continent, we're trying to progress as a country, but we still face these issues. So ongoing research in chemistry, I mean, if you look into work that's already been published as well, you'll see that the the basis or the foundation of all this is understanding chemical processes and how things work. So when we look at water purification, for example, that's understanding the chemical process of how what happens when water interacts with certain substances or toxins that or whatever pollutants that go into the water. When we look at food security, we now have to consider agriculture. Are we giving people the necessary tools to understand the chemistry of the soil, to understand the contents of the soil? What is it that will help improve the soil? What is it that we're doing to actually destroy our land, for example, that doesn't make it that makes it hard to cultivate? So even with access to medical care, using my research, for example, as much as it is a drop in the ocean, but it's going in the right direction, where I'm saying that can we create certain tools where we allow people to monitor their own health instead of running to the hospitals or having to beg or borrow or steal to get money to get to a clinic or travel hours to even get to a clinic to access medical care. So in terms of how important chemistry in Africa is, that's what I would really highlight right now. And then contributions to the rest of the world. I come from a research group, and I know a lot of other researchers and other institutions are really focusing on publishing their research. And when it comes to publishing, you're actually coming up with new ideas, right? You're coming up with new ideas or work that's never been done before, and you're showcasing it to the world and you're sharing it with the world. So it's not just you or Africa, but the whole world, and contributing to your findings in your chemical research. And the one thing that we must understand is that in science, scientific evidence will always surface. There'll always be something new because people are constantly probing and asking questions and doing tests and studies. And I mean, now with COVID, we had to come up with the vaccine so quickly. And that's how, you know, science can change, or scientific finds can change. So science is also not a stagnant thing. So we're constantly developing, constantly growing, constantly moving forward. And just to go back like years and years, probably before even my grandmother was even born, the science actually was quite a big thing in Africa. I mean, if we look back at how our ancestors did their healing process, they used plants. They knew that there was medicines and you know, in plants and things like that. And that was before you even found Europeans developing medicine. They're actually old, quite well, I don't want to say outdated, because any information from any point in time is quite crucial. But years ago, work was published where people were discussing how science was developed, or even chemistry and medicine was developed in Africa. So you'll even find salicylic acid is found in plants, and already on our continent we used it to as a pain medicine, and now we find it in things like aspirin, right?
Yeah.
That we use for our headaches. Even with your sanitizers, for example, there's findings that in Africa already there was substances in plants that we used in order to disinfect, because we were already performing certain surgeries back then that and things are not documented. There was even a book I read a while ago, I forget the title, but it really divulges a lot of information on the discoveries that actually occurred within the African continent when it comes to science as a whole. So your engineering, your medicines and things, and even architecture. So a lot of things actually root from Africa, and I think we need to go back to the drawing board and see how much we actually, well, how far we actually come, how we've come, and what we come from, and how we can continue to build from that and grow ourselves, instead of looking to run out and contribute to science outside of the world, and instead of building where we are and then using our own resources to grow ourselves a continent and contribute what we know.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, because if there's anybody who can find solutions to problems in Africa, it's Africans.
Yeah.
So it's that time that Africans stay in Africa, use African resources to make the Africa that they want to see. So I'm, like, what you've shared is amazing, because what I try to do in all of these live chats is to show that science has always been in Africa.
Yeah.
It's not something new. It's not something that was brought to us. It's always been here. It's just that we're not doing it the way maybe it was done in Europe or whatever, but it's always been there. And
exactly.
And I just love that. Yeah.
And I don't discourage traveling or going out into the world and seeing what is done out there. But once you've been out there, because I've traveled during my studies from my master's up until my PhD. Even during the joint PhD, I had to spend some months in France. What the work that's done out there is, it's great. There are resources that they have that we may not have, but when you look at it, we really have a lot to contribute to the world of science as a whole. We really are. We have the resources, we have the brains, we have ourselves. We are the drivers of the science, and it all starts here at home. So we should never think that anyone outside of Africa is far better than us. We just need to find ways in order to really get ourselves out there and build ourselves back up again.
Yeah, because we have everything we need right here.
Yeah.
And obviously we can always go out, get some knowledge, come back.
Yeah.
But there's something you said. You mentioned publishing. That if you look at published works, but that is information available to academics. And now when we speak of science communication, we're speaking about getting science to the public. So what is your opinion on science communication, and how do you think we can go about it the best way?
I think with science communication, and for example, your platform, it's so crucial. It's so important. You're literally bringing people from different branches of science into one live chat, and sharing different viewpoints on different subjects. So I think science communication is quite important, in that we need to understand that all disciplines end up connecting in some way or the other. So if you look at your computer sciences, it connects with the world we live in now. Most things are digitized. When it comes to medicine and chemistry, it's connected, and pharmaceutics, you need the pharmacists or your chemists to develop all these medicines in order for doctors to be able to do their jobs as efficiently as possible. So with science communication, I think it's quite important in that we need to come together more. We need to really step up and get out there. I know for example, I went on a hiatus and I disappeared off social media, but I used to post quite a bit on the work that I was doing. And I really want to go back to doing that again, because you realize that you end up even forming connections with people outside of your own continent, outside of your comfort zone, outside of your discipline. And you learn more about how you can develop yourself as a scientist from where you are within your discipline, but also just dabbling into other different disciplines within the scientific subjects. So yeah, so I think the most important thing for me is that more of us need to step up and come out and have these conversations and put ourselves out there and be willing to, you know, be on someone else's platform and talk about what we do, what our issues are, even discuss failures and discuss, you know, progress and discuss issues that we face in academia, or even those scientists that have gone into industry. What is it that is, where's the gap, you know, that is between academia and industry? How can we bridge that gap? Because also if you go into other countries, you have more of a connection between your academia and your industry, where students actually do projects that are connected to industry, so that when they start working, it's not a matter of, okay, I did my thesis on this and now I have to let you grovel to find a job that relates to this. But, and also we're also trying to use the scientific research that we carry out to contribute to the science world outside. It can't just be, I'm writing a thesis and then I'm putting it on the shelf and that's it.
Mm-hmm. It has to be applicable to the real world.
Yeah.
And how often do you, as a researcher, and maybe some of the researchers you've worked with, how often do you go back, especially when you work with people and communities, and you use them as case studies for your research and whatnot? How often do you go back and say, this is what we found in the research we've conducted, and this is what we think could help better these circumstances, or whatever the situation was that you're researching?
So with my research, I didn't do any research within the communities. So it was it was solely based within the lab and just doing the science in the lab, but not branching out. But I'm so glad you mentioned that, because it's things like these that we need to be aware of. That now, for example, you know, we could have someone else's platform where they talk about social sciences like that, where they look into things like that and perform that type of research, where they go out into the field and find out, okay, what is lacking within these communities? For example, do they have access to at least a basic clinic? What does that clinic have? What can they offer? What are the issues that they face? What would help improve what would help our research within the lab improve their livelihoods? So yeah, so I mean, like I'm saying, I didn't do any field work in that sense, but it would be such a great thing to sit with someone who actually does a lot of social sciences like that and links it to medicine or chemical research or any other type of scientific research, and then, you know, form a collaboration. Collaborations are so important as well. Like we're not single entities. When we grow up and they say it takes a village, it really takes a village in everything and anything, not just your upbringing, but even your career. And, you know, wherever your passions lie, you need other sources that will help you grow your whatever project that you're working on.
100%. When we go back and speak a little bit more on science communication, because that's basically the main topic,
Yeah.
you said we need more, all right? But when we have more science communicators, how then can they go about communicating better? And what platforms and avenues do you think they can use to communicate?
I'll let me go back to the accessibility of journal articles, for example, and all these publications. So academics could, for example, if you have platforms such as your podcasts or these live conversations that you usually have, blogs, even just sitting around the table and having conversations with friends, like, or going into doing community service and going into schools and sharing some readings that you have found for yourself, because no one says that you download an article and you'll get arrested if you share it with anyone else who doesn't have access to that paper, but you can. So yeah, so I think we just need to be more intentional about using the platforms that we have. So if you are passionate about starting up a blog or YouTube channel, I mean, that's where people are now. That's where people are focused. You have people all over social media, your Twitter, your Instagram, you have LinkedIn. And I've seen a lot of people who are very intentional about sharing on these platforms and who have blogs and podcasts. So I think using whatever platform you have, do that. I personally really, I enjoy teaching young kids. I feel like they absorb more information. So even going into that, even if you have a set curriculum that, okay, I'm just tutoring maths and science today to these grade 7 learners, maybe I can then have a 5-minute random conversation session where I'm like, okay, what is it that you want to know about science? This is what I do. What are you interested in? And then bring in more information to feed into their curious minds in that way. So just being innovative in ideas of how we bring it in. So yeah, that's just a few ideas that I have.
Okay. I have it's almost like a trick question. All right.
Okay.
So how do you introduce yourself? So when you introduce yourself to people and they meet you for the first time, what do you say and what do you say you do? Do you say you're a scientist, or do you just say, hi, I'm Robin, or hi, I'm Siphesihle, and you stop there?
Are you asking me if I have imposter syndrome? Which I do.
Just want to
You know
know.
what? It's very difficult. So when I literally just introduced myself as just my name, right? And I only talk about what I do more often than not when I'm asked what I do. And it's quite, it's been a difficult thing for me to do because I do have imposter syndrome. So when I'm by myself, I'm like, okay, I'm confident, I know what I'm doing, and this is me being transparent. But then you get into a crowd of people and you're like, will they really understand what I do? Can I really explain what I do? Will they see the importance of what I do, you know? So it's just, it's fun you ask, because it's something that I've recently had to talk myself through, like be bold and be confident and step up. And even so, this is
I don't know what happened.
This is why I was so excited to be on. It's okay. That's why I was so excited to be on this live, because I was like, oh, here's a platform for me to actually like practice what I've been trying to tell my brain. Like you deserve to be here. You've worked to be here. You know,
so it's a good thing.
You know enough to talk about what you know, and if they don't understand, then you'll need to just go back and find a better way of explaining what you know. You know, it's okay to. I think also the fear of being judged that, okay, you're a scientist but you don't know much. I don't know everything about science. I mean, I had people asking me about COVID vaccines. Like, I know as much as probably everyone who's read about it knows, but I'm not in like knee deep in the vaccine research, but I read about it as much as I can. But I can't give a fully informed decision on that, because that is not the subject that I've based years of my life studying, you know. Whereas there are people who can speak on that. And then there'll be people who can't really tell a lot about prostate cancer research, but I can, because I've spent more time reading on that. So I think we also just need to give each other grace to know that you don't have to know everything. It's okay to say, I don't know, but I'll find out. And that's one thing that, I myself am working on.
No, the reason I'm asking you that is because I think one of the ways to open up conversations is to say, hi, I'm whoever, and I'm a scientist. Automatically, people will be like, oh, you're a scientist, so do you know about 1, 2, 3, you know? I mean, obviously, you can't always do that in every single space, but as soon as you say, I'm a scientist, then somebody might be like, oh, actually, I wanted to ask this. Then you can be like, oh, actually, I don't know about that, but I can find out, like you said, you know? Although I also understand it can get really it can get too much, because you have people who are doctors who will not say they're a doctor when they're in social spaces, because then everybody comes like, you know, I have this ailment. Does it mean?
Exactly.
So that's also here. So I get it, 100%, 100%. I just want to check our time to make sure we're still on good time, because we have a couple of questions that I saw coming through. So I want you to answer them before our time runs out. There were a lot of comments. Were you seeing them as they were coming through?
I was trying to, but I was also...
They move very quickly. Don't worry. I'll start asking the questions. Okay, so the first one is, can we call you Dr. SRN already?
Technically, no. Apparently, you have to wait until it's conferred. So, unfortunately, I can't use the title officially, but we'll get there.
Yeah, that's why we call her soon to be. Soon to be. And we have somebody here saying, during my second year BSc in mathematics and chemistry at UFS, so inspired by you, Robin. You're a black girl of magic.
Thank you. This is the
And
type of
then,
confidence boosters I need so that I can be bold and step up and like, say, hi, I'm Robin the scientist. I actually need to practice saying, hi, I'm Dr. So.
there we go. There we go. Somebody else saying the research sounds interesting and has real world implications. Um, and then somebody else, great conversation. We need more of this. Big up at Siakula Digital and at Robin. Um, okay, let's
I
see.
see something
Great
about
convo.
funding.
Yes, there is. How's the funding in Africa? A lot of Africans want to contribute, but the funding is not always accessible.
Yeah, that is actually one of the big issues that um people struggle to find funding. And I don't, it's not that funding is not there. I think if there could be better ways of advertising the fundings that are available for different disciplines within the science field, it would actually help a lot. And I don't know how we'd go about doing that, because when you're in the academic space, it's easy to know that what funding is available because you're constantly getting emails from the institution saying this and this available. But when it comes to someone who wants to come in from outside, how do they go about finding it? And I think it's one of the things that need to be improved on, just like certain aspects of science communication, where we actually are intentional about finding out what funding is out there, from your private companies to the academic spaces to your state-owned companies, and then compiling a list, and maybe even like being the ones to just post on our social media pages or platforms, or inform people and share that, okay, I know that this funding is available. Do you want to apply? Because I know you're interested in this field. Or finding out, okay, who is interested in doing this study? Are you willing to go through the application process, and then just share that way? So it's actually a good question, because I think there is actually more funding that we realize. It's just not advertised well.
That is true.
That's my opinion.
True. So maybe I could also, whenever I find out about something, I would also tweet it on our platform and put it up so people know. Another comment: Africa is the future. Well, Africa is the future and Africa is the now. 100%, I agree there. Do you agree there, Robin?
100%. I agree. That's why I'm still here. I could have left and gone back to Europe. But I really have so much faith in just science on our continent. I really do. I think there's so much we can do. It's just, yeah, I just think, I mean, this just opened my eyes that we need to have more conversation like this. So honestly, thank you for starting these conversations and having them with us, so that we can continue with such conversations, so we can grow, meet other people within the field, meet people who share the same passions, and grow with it.
Yeah, definitely. This one is definitely for you. It says you deserve a seat at the table.
Thank you. Where's the chair?
And somebody's got, like, those blushy face with hearts all over. It's like, yes. So you are very loved, Robin. So that's great.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, here, this one is directly for you. Somebody says, I'm no scientist, but you inspire me regardless. Love you, girl. So proud of you.
Okay, thank you so much.
And then the last question that we have at the moment is, congrats, Robin. Super proud of you. Postdoc in Europe?
No. To be quite honest, I'll be honest about academia personally. It was a tough road. It's not easy. It's nice to talk about it and sit here and smile, but it really is not easy. So for me, I want to go into industry. I want to go apply my knowledge, somewhere. And I mean, postdoc is great if you want to stay in the academic space. It's not a bad space at all. I just personally need a break from academia. But in any event, if I'm continuing in research and development wherever I am, it'll always fall back into the academic space, because you're still contributing to the world of science in academia and in the world. So I think the two are interlinked.
Okay, fantastic. Do you have any final words of encouragement, of motivation? you've been very honest throughout this conversation. So I really appreciate all the gems that you've dropped along the way. I hope everybody got them.
I think it's important to really be honest about our journeys and where we've been and how far we've come, because it's not easy. It really is not a walk in the park, whether you are in corporate, because I've done the industry before and it didn't work well for me when I first tried it out. But at that time, I also hadn't really aligned myself with where my passions really lie. So I knew I wanted to be in research, but I didn't know where specifically I wanted to place myself. So leaving my corporate job and then going back to academia, I got the past 3 years to really look into what I need to do, even to discipline myself and understand that there's certain things that will be uncomfortable, but I have to go through that to get to where I want to be. So it's not always about what you want or what you like and having fun the whole way, but it's knowing that even under pressure, you're still enjoying moments of it, and you know that you have something to look forward to that you're going to get to at that point. Yes. So I just think, it's so important to just know yourself and find your place and where you want to place yourself and work towards that. There's really there's nothing stopping us, Yeah. And I think the more we have these conversations as well, the more we create these platforms where we can have these conversations, whether you're a scientist or not, you're also opening doors for people to find people they can network with that can help them propel them to the next phase of their careers and their lives. So it's not just about us as well, it's about whoever is willing to listen and hear us out, because journeys are similar even though we're not in the same field.
Yeah, 100%. I think there was one more comment that came through there. It's academia is only a road traveled by a rare breed. I completely agree.
It's exhausting, but it was worth it, I guess.
Okay, there's another one here. I absolutely love hearing you speak. Honest, unfiltered, and so motivating. And somebody's like, love me a you, Rob. Okay. All right. So any final words from your side that you feel like you want to leave with us and with everybody watching?
I just think just speak up. I think it's take the risk. It's neither here nor there. Like, it's if you feel like there's something you really want to do, try it out. The worst you can get is a no if you don't ask. Well, if you do ask, the worst you could do is fail at that one thing, and then you try the next. I think it's in this life, we already know that living through COVID at this point in life, it's worth taking the risk and regretting not trying out anything. There are consequences to every decision, obviously, but if you're willing to face those, then go for it.
I love that. I love those words. I think they're gonna be good with everybody who's here. Robin, I don't know. Do you prefer Robin or do you prefer Siphesihle? Which one?
I really do not mind. There are people who prefer to use one name over the other, but I really don't mind. They both my names. I'll respond to either one of them.
Okay. All right. So Siphesihle, Robin, thank you so much for joining us. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I can see how passionate you are about science communication, but not just that, but about science in Africa as a whole. I don't know if that's because of your supervisor, but I feel like it's also something that you're very passionate about, of elevating Africa to where we want it to be,
Yeah.
So I definitely feel I should bring you back on sometime in the future. And after you spend some time in industry, and you can come back with a little bit more, information or words of wisdom or knowledge that you've gathered. I think that would be really cool.
I will do that. I definitely will.
And if I ever have a Science in Africa conference one day,
you
should probably be on the panel. I think we need that kind of conference where we have all of these different scientists coming together around a table or at a conference, and we're just speaking about what are we doing in Africa at the moment, and what has been happening. I think that would be absolutely wonderful. For everybody who's joined us, thank you so much. This was So great. I wish we could speak for a whole hour, but I value your time and I value everybody else's time. So we'll have to, end it here. So, Robin, thank you again,
Thank
once
you
again.
very much. I
This
appreciate
was
it.
great. Have a
It was.
fantastic evening.
You too. Thank
And
you
we'll be
everyone else for
following you on the
joining.
socials.
Yeah, I'm back now. Don't worry. I'll give you content.
Oh, great stuff. We'll be following you. Everybody knows your handle. Obviously, I'll also put it when I save this live, and they can always get in touch with you if they need, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Thank you so much, Robin. Have a great
Thank
evening.
you. You
All
too.
right.
Bye.
Bye.